see this or whatever. But I'm gonna do my little review of the JBL boombox. So I just want to introduce that I'm into a lot of audio stuff. So this is the Audio Technica Pro 700 MK2s. You know, the headphone amplifier and everything that they need. Okay, and I'm also going to be comparing, I'm not comparing this, but I mean, I'll reference the Shure 215 SE once in a while. So I also have my real system back there. So here's the deal. There's been a lot of love it or hate it on the internet about this, which is fine, and I would agree. This is kind of a love it or hate it product. I love it myself, of course. There's a couple things that I understand could be issues for some people, and then there's other things that have to do with the character, and by that I mean these are unavoidable trade-offs, and there are trade-offs. They're not problems that come from the product itself. They're problems that come from the choices that they made with the product. For example, the design is its own trade-off. Some people are going to love this design, which is basically a little handle evolution of their other smaller speakers, and other people won't. They'll hate it. They're not going to like that. So again, there's going to be these trade-offs. There's another trade-off with a waterproof design, is you can't use what my system has back there. Those ports, space ports, you can't use that. You have to have a passive radiator, and this isn't a small speaker, so a passive radiator on a larger speaker like this really gives it a certain kind of sonic signature, which we'll talk more about in a minute here. So I'm going to start off with the very few things that I don't like, are things that you probably haven't heard in other reviews that have irked me. One of them is this flap is incredibly difficult to open. So I have much larger hands, so my fingers don't fit in there. Okay, so like you can take a pen and it just bends the crap out of the pen. I feel like it's to the point where even this thing's gonna wear down from using other stuff than my finger to try to pry it off. Now, the benefit is it's waterproof. Dunked this in the water last night. No problems. Okay, I wanted to check that because you can have manufacturer's defect in that, that there's a hole or something and water can get places it shouldn't. And you should always make sure that that's tight. Like, don't just not tight it down just because you don't want to or something. But in any case, so that's a problem. Another problem is the Bluetooth. This is kind of a trade-off, but it's kind of also a problem that there isn't like a setting where it will work this way. The Bluetooth doesn't lock to your device, which means anyone can open their phone, pop open JBL boombox, and start playing something. Now, whoever hits play most recently gets the boombox, which means that eventually you can fatigue somebody who's trying to rip you off by playing their own music, trying to troll you, but just keep hitting play. And they'll give up because it ain't their speaker. So they have that weighing on their conscience, and eventually they'll stop messing with you. But I've had that happen to me a couple times. And that is not cool. So, as you can see, I like big things. I just drunk right out of this 2-liter. So its size comes down to whether or not it can fit with your stuff or not, and it does fit in my 32-liter backpack. I would be very concerned if I had a smaller backpack because it probably wouldn't fit inside there. It is 13 pounds or so. It feels heavier than 13 pounds. It's not. Okay, this right here, let me see. This right here is 13 pounds. However, 10-pound weight in the handle. However, this is a little bit easier to lift because it's got like a handle. Well, not that that doesn't have a handle, but it's a lot denser. This does not float or anything, so it's easier to lift 13 pounds of steel than it is to lift 13 pounds of plastic. And although it might sound like, no, it's all 13 pounds, no, it's easier. Okay, so this feels a little heavy for 13 pounds, and not as heavy as the diamond box feels. But we'll come back to talking about the diamond box, which I don't own, and there's a reason for that. So, you know, this isn't necessarily poor sound quality anyway. Mostly it's a subjective thing to the sonic signature. So I'm not going to go and say that anything within that is a negative. Instead, I'd rather continue to focus on a couple points that I noticed that kind of suck. So the Bluetooth, the flap on the back. Okay, I cannot remember the other thing I don't like. So my cat wants to be the center of attention. This is a small cat. Okay, a very small cat. So it's not, the speaker's not huge, as you can see. It's still not much bigger than she is. Maybe a little bit heavier though. But anyways. So it's bigger in person than it looks on camera. I can tell you that much. In fact, that'll be the first thing you notice when you get this. Even after I say this, it's bigger in person. It just is. You know, like if you look at the length of my entire arm, and I have a larger arm. Okay, I'm 6'3", so it goes from my elbow all the way, almost all the way. It goes past my knuckle, almost all the way to my fingers. I mean, it's a pretty big speaker, and it definitely is bigger in person than on camera. Okay, like even compared to this cat, it's actually has more volume than this cat does, in which it doesn't look like on the viewfinder. On the camera, it does not look like that, but it's actually bigger than her. On the camera, it looks like it's even smaller, but it's not. Maybe this 2-liter bottle gives a good idea of how big it is. Okay, you could probably fit several 2 liters inside it. Maybe not. Maybe it actually makes it look, just look at how tall it is. It's like much taller than, I mean, almost as tall as the 2 liters. So, this is not a 1-liter bottle, okay? This thing is as much bigger than the Extreme as the Extreme is than the Flip 4. In other words, the Charge 3 to Extreme is a smaller difference. You have to actually compare like the Extreme to the Flip 4. Okay, to get the difference between the Extreme and this. Even though on camera that definitely isn't what it looks like. Okay, this is like, volume-wise, it's about 4 times the size of the Extreme. So, anyways, maybe not 4, 3.5. I don't know, something like that. It will pair with the Extreme 2. It's not going to pair with the Extreme 1 because of technical difficulties. I do wish, instead of calling it Connect Plus, they called it something entirely different, like New Connect or something else, you know. So moving on. I won't be able to squeeze everything into 15 minutes, and I suck at making videos, and this is a cell phone video, so welcome to the life of me not being on YouTube very much. So I might get a camera someday for other purposes, in which case I'll make some videos. I don't plan on making money on YouTube, even if I could. I feel like that'd be kind of lame, so whatever. I'm not going to play any music because this is paired to the phone I'm recording on, but I wouldn't have the microphone to listen to music anyways. What I can do is talk to you about it. Ben Bracelets Purple is my SoundCloud, and if you have headphones or whatever stuff you have, you can go through my music And I have something called Hardcore, Nightcore. If you click on that and play through that playlist, you'll hear the music that this thing really brings to life. Okay, it's really good at hardcore, happy hardcore kind of music. DJ S3RL, okay, that kind of music, phenomenal. It also does an excellent job at dubstep because it has such a high-low emphasis on lowest to bass and highest to highs, that without any EQ, it really has a V-shaped EQ, and you can listen to dubstep and it sounds amazing. Okay, particularly like Rocksonic's Dogfight, stuff like that. All right, the full flex of Skrillex Roughneck, which I also have a dubstep playlist. You can get some examples in there. I have mostly like the world's greatest hits of dubstep on my playlist because I'm not really a dubstep fan, but I enjoy it and I know that other people enjoy it, so that's why I have that playlist there. As far as the only disappointment within the sound, let me explain the sound signature. Sonic signature is subjective. It's not an objective quality. I mean, there's objectivity that goes into it, but it really comes down to who you are in terms of whether or not you like it or not. Let me describe it to you. It's like you have a vivid rainbow, okay? You have neon orange, neon green. You have just this deep purple, indigo blue, a nice neon cyan, and then your yellow is like, lightning strike yellow. But then there's no red. There's no red. The red is just absent. It's like a stripe of whiteness. Okay? And that's kind of what this is like. It's vibrant. It's pretty strong. It's somewhat warm in areas, but it has very cold mids, which sounds weird with some stuff, and it doesn't really have much lower mids or upper bass, however you want to call it. It drops off sharp at 80 hertz, which I think I'll explain in another video. But yeah, 80, 90 hertz, very, very sharp drop off. It comes back up slightly to at like 250 hertz, and then it starts to fold again at 1,000 hertz. It keeps that fall for a while, comes back up at 3,000 hertz. Then it really starts to curve up. Okay, the 16,000 hertz is really, really super sharp and high. Okay, which is great for some people in some music. Not so great for classical. And I'm describing the indoor mode. And the indoor mode bass extension goes down to at least 35 hertz. It continues to curve down. I still hear stuff all the way down to 28 hertz on my hertz tester. That doesn't mean you can hear it in music. Maybe 27, maybe even 26 hertz. At 25, it's totally dead. There's no movement in the passive radiators. There's no sound coming out of this thing at all. Okay, its peak resonance is probably roughly around 50 hertz, and that is why it sounds so great at the lowest of the low end. However, when you listen to cello playing, not so good. So we'll explain more about that later. I do not remember what. Let me try to pause this. Remember the third thing. Well, I'll have to come back to you on that because I do not remember the third thing that's a problem. Yeah, I'm gonna have to upload more than one video, so bear with me. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one. I will go ahead and do another one because I really need to touch on some points. So continue to watch these if you care about the JBL boombox, which wasn't cheap, so you should care about it. Bye-bye.